Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Keys to AWS Optimization. I've got two really exciting guests with me today. We are still kind of going into some of the deep dives of our reInvent launches this year. So we're going to be talking about Compute Optimizer and EBS today. But before we get into it, have you guys had a frugal week or a spendy week so far? Jimmy, I'll go to you first. I know you're on a work trip as well, like I am. So how's it been?
It's been a frugal week.
Okay.
Before this work trip, I was in Hong Kong, so it's going to take a couple more frugal weeks to make up for that.
Absolutely. What about you, Kim?
Frugal week as well, but we're happy Jim is here in town after 3 years and a half. We eventually the team meets our PM in person. We're
Oh
happy.
my gosh. That's awesome. It's been a pretty frugal week for me too. I'm traveling and on the road. I'm coming to you from the finest Hilton in all the land. So yeah, we're keeping it under wraps, but might get a little fun this weekend. Um, hey everybody in the chat, good to see y'all as well. Hope you're having a frugal or a spendy week, depending on what your vision is. Jimmy, do you want to give a quick 2-minute intro about who you are, what you do here, and what you're excited to talk about with us today?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having us on the show. This is both of our first times, so we're really excited to share the latest launches, engage with the audience, and so thanks for having us on. So my name is Jimmy. I am a product manager in the AWS optimization team. So I'm part of the team that thinks a lot about how we help customers optimize their spend and their usage, and we try to ship great products to help all of you do that. And so really excited to share our latest reInvent launch, talk about the challenges that we hear from customers, and how we're trying to solve that for all of you.
Awesome. Ken, what about you?
Hi, this is Ken. Morning, everyone. I'm the SDM of the automation team, and before that, I'm the tech lead and also the engineering manager of the Compute Optimizer control plane team as well. Being the initial member of launching the Compute Optimizer since 2019, being through this whole journey. Yeah, also very happy to join the show with Jimmy today to share our great product to the customers.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us both. For folks who aren't aware, I think the name is fairly intuitive, Compute Optimizer, but can you guys just give me like a quick once over about what the product is, where it lives in the console, and like what the vision for the tooling is?
Yeah, so Compute Optimizer is a service that helps customers optimize their usage. And we do that in a number of ways. So customers tell us, we really want help identifying the opportunities where we can optimize. So in Compute Optimizer, you'll find recommendations for EC2 instances, for EBS volumes, for a host of different AWS resources where we will analyze your usage and then give you a recommendation on what could be a more optimized configuration. So that could be a smaller instance size to save cost. That could be a larger instance size so that you can get more performance. And so Compute Optimizer delivers those insights to you across your accounts, across your resource types. Since reInvent last year, we have evolved Compute Optimizer into a service that can actually help you take action. And we'll get into that more as part of today's show. But that is the next step for AWS Compute Optimizer in helping you take action on those optimization opportunities.
Awesome. And one question we get a good amount, or at least I get, because we've got kind of different personas that are interacting with some of these recommendations. Is Compute Optimizer different from Cost Optimization Hub? How do those two interact? I feel like all my FinOps folks are always in Cost Optimization Hub, and the engineers that I work with are a little bit more familiar with Compute Optimizer. But can you just give us a quick refresh on how those two connect and what that looks like?
Yeah, so Cost Optimization Hub is part of our suite of optimization products. And it's really purpose built for those centralized FinOps teams who need to get an understanding of the opportunities across their entire organization, across a variety of different sources, where we aggregate across region, across accounts, across resource types to give you that single pane of glass view of your opportunities. And it's mostly focused on cost, as the name suggests. And so that helps you prioritize, what are those highest savings opportunities against the effort and the risk for those opportunities, so that you can help your teams prioritize and figure out where to invest your time and effort. Compute Optimizer gives you a deeper dive into those recommendations. So if you have shared recommendations with application owners and they want more details, they can actually go to the same recommendation in Compute Optimizer, and they'll get information on the usage over the last 14 or 32 days. They'll get graphs that will show them that usage pattern. They can understand the different options that they might have on different instance types and sizes. And so it gives you much more information on the analysis behind those recommendations. And some of our most advanced optimization customers will use both. And so they'll start with Cost Optimization Hub. They'll drill down into the recommendations with Compute Optimizer, and so that they can get a complete picture of what that optimization opportunity is and what the action is to go and achieve that.
Awesome. Yeah, and you hinted at this as well, but you can link back and forth between them. So if you're a FinOps person and you're just looking at the aggregated view, you do have the ability to, when you pull up a recommendation, direct link into Compute Optimizer. So it's a little bit of a gateway that way as well. Awesome. All right. So what did we launch, Jimmy? What are we excited about? What are we here to talk about today?
Yeah, so one of the things that we hear from customers is that these recommendations are great. It really does the heavy lifting for us to help us identify opportunities to save costs, opportunities to improve performance. But a lot of times, what we hear is those insights don't get acted on because there's an additional level of effort to go and implement them across their accounts, across regions, across their entire organization. And it comes down to a few things. One is prioritization. Sometimes these opportunities can be in the thousands. The opportunity size might be smaller than what it's worth to go and implement some of these. Some of it could be just a risk aversion. I don't want to go and change any configurations because that could lead to some adverse effects on my application. And so when we looked at this challenge for customers, we really wanted to build a solution that can do that heavy lifting, be able to take advantage of all of those savings that customers have, but do it in a very safe way. And so we thought a lot about how can we make this a great experience for both central teams, for application owners, to be able to optimize their infrastructure using best practices and using guardrails built into the service so that you don't have to worry about all of these different risks, and so that you can go and take these opportunities much more quickly. And so that's the challenge that we've heard from customers, and the direction that we want to go and help customers implement these optimizations. And that's what we want to share with you today. And we want to walk you through this new experience in Compute Optimizer and all the different features and ways that can help you solve this optimization problem.
Awesome. Let's take a look at it. Can you pull up your screen?
Yes. Give me 1 second. I had to pull up my screen.
And we're thinking. The AWS console loves a live show. Loves to load on a live show every time. Awesome. What have we got? So is this the main Compute Optimizer dashboard that you're looking
Yeah,
at?
so if you're familiar with Compute Optimizer, this is the console page. And you'll notice that there's a new section here for automation. And the first page that I want to show you is this new dashboard. So anytime that you take an action or automate an action through Compute Optimizer, you will get a complete view of what has taken place. And you'll be able to track that over time and get a summary of all of those automated actions. So I want to show you this dashboard because this is going to help quantify the financial impact, give you an idea of the statuses, and give you monitoring capabilities of this automation. And it allows you to drill down into even more details. So the first thing you'll see is this summary. And you'll be able to summarize these events over the last 12 months. And you'll be able to see these events on a monthly basis grouped by those statuses. So you can see all the ones that were completed. You can see all the ones where rollback was completed, as well as some of these other ones where you might need to take an additional look and see where if there's an additional action that you want to take.
Right on. So when we're seeing like a complete here, is that's indicating that the system took an action based on a recommendation and it was completed. So ideally, we're now using a resource that's going to be more cost efficient and more cost effective. Is that accurate?
That's correct. So there are two recommendations that we support today. The first is cleaning up unattached EBS volumes. So if you've got an abandoned volume that's laying around from a project that was completed months ago, that will show up here, and you can automatically take those recommendations to go snapshot and delete those volumes. The second optimization that we support is upgrading your EBS volumes from GP2 to GP3 or IO1 to IO2. And so it helps you take advantage of the latest generation hardware, and it allows you to take advantage of the cost savings up to 20% for GP2 to GP3. And so this dashboard helps you visualize all of those recommended actions that were available that you've taken and have converted into these savings and completed automation events.
All right. We've got a question in the chat. How do you set parameters around automation events so it's not just going wild on me?
Yeah, well,
I think we're probably getting to this, but
yeah, we'll get into that in terms of how you set up these automations and how do we get to this these results on this dashboard. So we'll go over that in just a second, but I wanted to show you the rest of this dashboard so that folks understand, okay, when I take an automation, can I get all of those details? And so underpinning all of these, this summary, you'll get a record of every automation event that has taken place. You can understand what the description of each of these events, the savings, when this occurred, and so you will get a history of all of these automated events as part of this dashboard. Right. So let me jump into how we can take some of these automated events. So the first way is reviewing all of the opportunities that are available. So like I mentioned, there are two actions that are supported today: snapshotting and deleting unattached EBS volumes, and then upgrading EBS volume types. And so from this page, you'll be able to see all of those opportunities across multiple accounts if you're a centralized team, or all of the opportunities in your own account, if you're looking at it from a linked account. And from here, you'll be able to see the opportunities, and you can multi-select all of those opportunities that you want to take and be able to implement them directly from Compute Optimizer. So if you're concerned about an automation going running wild, you can start here, and you can manually go through these opportunities, and you can test out how Compute Optimizer will actually go and implement them. And you can see the results of these quick wins before you go and implement a more broad and more automated way of implementing these optimizations. So you can start here. This is great for one-time cleanups. This is also great to test out how this automation works.
Got it. So we kind of almost have like 3 different ways of taking these optimization recommendations now. So like 1, you can do it the old-fashioned way and look at the reporting and go in and change the resource. 2, what you're showing right now, you can look at the kind of aggregated list, check, click apply, and the system will take the application this way. And then the 3rd way is setting up an automated rule so that you don't have to go in here and like cherry pick, basically. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yep, that's
Awesome.
correct.
Cool. And can I ask why just these 2 recommendations right now? And this might be something that we've got a more technical reason behind as well. So I'd love to hear from both of you if it's applicable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So our thinking here is that we want to start with the lowest hanging fruit that we hear from customers. There is a concern about how optimization might impact performance, how it might impact applications. And so we want to look for the opportunities where it has the lowest operational risk. And so that's why we've started with snapshotting and cleaning up these unused resources, right? So you'll get a backup of all of your data, so there's no risk of losing that data, and you can always restore from that snapshot. And we know these aren't being used because they've been unattached for over 32 days. And so that's an easy one that customers can take and easily reverse if they need to. And then upgrading from EBS GP2 to GP3, that is a non-disruptive recommendation. You can do that without taking any downtime, and you get better performance with the latest generation hardware as well. And so our thinking here is to start with the lowest hanging fruit, and then eventually we want to add more of the recommendations that we provide to customers today and be able to support that through this direct implementation in Compute Optimizer. Tan, you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. I think Jimmy is right that it's an easy one. It's a low-hanging fruit that we can easily do. And plus, one more reason is that we have been running internal automation, which is before the GA, we targeting on some of the internal customers. We've been running like EBS for internal automation for a while. So, and we have confidence, we have experiences on this, so that makes sure this brings the best experiences.
Oh, awesome. Cool. That's actually really interesting that we're doing it internally first before we make sure that we can kind of like support it and roll out perspective. Awesome. We've got another question in the chat. Do we have documentation on how the recommendations are created?
Yes. So if you're familiar with the recommendations that we have today, these recommended actions are already based on the recommendations that we generate. So we have documentation on how we identify unattached DBS volumes, the length of time, the metrics that we look at, as well as for EBS volume upgrades. We're looking at IOPS, we're looking at throughput, we're making sure that there's no performance requirements before we upgrade before we make a modification to those EBS volumes. And you can find all of that on the the Compute Optimizer documentation.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we have like one of the little like info boxes that pops up in the console, but the user guide is what I usually look at if I'm looking for like really in-depth breakdown.
Yep, and you can also deep link into those recommendations to get more details. So for example, all of these volumes in which we have generated a recommended action, you can go and actually click into this link, and then you'll see more details on this particular volume and all of the metrics in which we have looked at to generate this recommendation to go from GP2 to GP3.
Awesome. Popping back to the other report, we've got another question about how long this is stored. We've got like a good amount of trace data here for like which actions the system is taking. How far back does that report go, or are there any limitations on that?
Yeah, so the in the history of the automation events, that dashboard I showed earlier, we keep that up to 1 year, and so you'll see up to a year's worth of automation events records, and you can actually go, and that will enable you to actually go and roll back any of those automation events. If you need to restore a volume, for example, that was snapshotted and deleted, you can do that through Compute Optimizer for up to a year.
Awesome. Okay. So what does it look like if I click that orange review and apply button? Is there anything else I have to do, or does it just go for it?
So we've baked in a lot of different steps to make sure that customers are implementing the actions that they intend to. And we can talk a little bit more under the hood later about the ones that the guardrails that we have that aren't shown here. But in this experience and in this workflow, once you click review and apply, you get another screen to review exactly the volumes that you are snapshotting and deleting, and you are getting a table of all the ones where you're upgrading the volume type. And so you could be selecting multiple ones across different pages, right? And that will get summarized in this this page. So think of this as like the checkout page in your cart, right?
Except for you're saving money, not spending money.
Exactly. So if you're looking to have a more frugal week, this is a great way to do that. We've still got 2 more days in the week, so this is a great way to top up those savings for the rest of the week. And so here you can actually review all of those details from the previous page, organized by the different actions. And so you can see if I'm deleting these volumes, you can see what the configurations of those volumes are, the tags for each of these volumes, and then similarly, you can do the same for the upgrades as well.
Awesome. And it looks like you can hot link directly to the resources too, if you want to go poke around before you confirm.
Exactly. So these hyperlinks take you back to that detailed page with those graphs, and you can see the usage of each of these volumes. So once you click confirm and apply, there's still one more step that you need to do. And again, we summarize the number of actions, you type confirm, and then once you apply these changes, you'll see them show up in the dashboard as in progress, and you can monitor the statuses of each of these actions in that dashboard. So I won't click the apply changes here, but I can show you what that looks like in the automation events. So once you click apply, you'll see like an event here for upgrade, and you'll see an event for snapshot and delete. I'll show you the snapshot and delete one and show you what that looks like, so you can get more details on this automation event. So in addition to recording when this was implemented, you actually get a step history as well. So you'll see that we have created an EBS snapshot, and you'll get a link to that snapshot ID. So you can click on this and it'll take you to the EBS console, and where you can take additional actions on these snapshots if you wish. And then we have the step for actually deleting that EBS volume. And you'll notice that these are recorded independently. And so you'll see estimated savings for each of these line items here. And if I were to roll back this event, let's say I accidentally deleted this volume and I want this volume to come back, I can roll this back and it will show an additional step here where we create a new EBS volume from the snapshot that was created in the first step. And so you get that comprehensive step history as part of every action, so that you can track what resources have been created, what resources have been rolled back, and what are the new resources that have been created from that snapshot.
Awesome. Okay, so it seems like just going through the workflow, like it seems like we have some pretty human steps in place of type and confirm, multiple screens, review to make sure that people aren't just doing this kind of willy-nilly. And we have like a very comprehensive trace of what actions were taken and the ability to roll back. Is there anything else kind of going on in the background that's preventing the system from taking an action that we don't want it to, or what do those guardrails look like?
Yeah, we have Tan on the call who has worked with our engineering team to design all of the guardrails that go behind each of these steps. And so, Tan, if you want to talk a little bit more about, what actually happens when we initiate one of these events, like what goes on when we're creating an EBS snapshot? What goes on before we delete an EBS volume?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that. That's a great question, actually. Safety mechanisms are built into our feature to provide operational confidence and try to minimize the risk for customers. So the automation system conducts several checks that verify the resource eligibility before taking the actual actions, targeting only the volume that matches your specific rules, specific criteria. So more specifically, we've done I'll give a few examples. We've done the following checks. So first, of course, we're checking the opt-in verification, making sure that the customer is still opting into the Compute Optimizer automation feature. And after that, we'll validate the customer rules. Make sure that when customer set a rule and before we execute the rule, make sure that the triggering automation rule is still valid and active for the rule-based trigger events. Jimmy will probably can cover later. For organization customers, we'll verify, for organization use cases, we'll verify that the target account, let's say it's a member account, it still belongs to the organization and is still covered by the organization automation rules. Make sure it's still part of the organization that still follows the rule. And more importantly, we check on the resource state consistency, making sure that the resource stays in the same state when you set the rule and before we executed the actions. Ensure that the current resource state matches the state indicated in the recommendation. We validate that the current resource matches the recommendation action by first calling the describe. Here is the describe EBS volume API before doing the mutation action. And one more step on top of that is we also use the IAM session policy to provide additional safety layer check by restricting the AWS API calls to only the specific resource and parameters defined in the rule criteria. This is just to avoid a very corner case that after the validation is done and before the rule get executed, within that second, even within that milliseconds, nothing has changed to the customer resources. So those are all kinds of the safety guardrails we will be doing to make sure that it's a smooth experience throughout the whole process and also the minimum the risk. Yeah, Jimmy, you can take over.
Got it. So we're checking and making sure that the account's still in the organization and that it's okay for us to take this action and that we're related in the right way, basically. We're checking to make sure that we're doing exactly what the user is telling us to do, whether that's through an automation rule or through kind of this process that we're walking through click by click here. We're checking on the resource to make sure it's still there, to make sure that the resources still being flagged by Compute Optimizer is something that we need to look at. And then we're doing that kind of like minute to, or I guess millisecond to millisecond check and just making sure that everything's as we expect.
That's exactly true. Yeah.
It's a lot of checks. Thank you for building all that.
Yeah, and to make that even more concrete, let's say you go and take this snapshot and delete action, and right before that you take that action, that volume was actually attached to another volume. This will actually fail because we will do a check to see if that volume is still unattached right before we go and implement the recommended action. Same thing for an EBS volume upgrade. So if it's if the recommendation was to go from a GP2 to a GP3, but it was modified right before you take that action to an IO1 volume, for example, then we wouldn't go and modify that to a GP3 volume. We make sure that it is consistent with the recommendation. The configuration is consistent with the recommendation before we go and take that action.
Awesome. Okay. So we're really, really checking and making sure that we're not disrupting anybody's work if somebody's in there. If this is the one moment when our engineer's like, actually, I am going to upgrade that. They've been telling me to do it for months. This is the time. And we're not getting in the way of that as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And then from a reporting perspective, we have basically the trace of everything that's been done and the resource ID we see here.
Yeah, and so let me show you the second way that we can implement these recommendations, right? So let's say you have a pretty large organization and you have many accounts with lots of unattached volumes in those accounts in different regions, right? So if you were going to go and select all of these one by one, that could take some time. You could do it, but not the most efficient way or the best use of your time. And these volumes may come up over time as well, right? And so you want to go and set up a process that can essentially take care of this for you going forward. And so what we built here is a new way for you to schedule these cleanups and these optimizations. And we're calling them automation rules that you can set for both your organization and or for your individual account. So if you're a centralized account and you want to set up rules for all of your non-production, your dev, your QA accounts, you can do that with a single rule across all of your regions, right? And so you can create an automation rule.
Can you make this just a hair bigger?
Yes.
Sorry. Perfect.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. And so if you're in the management account, you can create an organization level rule, and you can select all the accounts that you want this rule to apply to. You can choose if your rule takes priority over an account, the individual accounts, or you can choose for it to apply after. And so you get that flexibility to work with individual account owners to see, who should own this optimization. You can choose all of the actions or one of the actions, and then you can specify criteria in which you only act on the recommendations when it matches certain criteria. So for example, you can say, I only want it to be in a certain region.
Okay.
And you can choose, US East 1, you can choose US East 2, and you can go and down the list of the different regions. You can also use tags as a criteria. And so you can say, well, my environment is equal to non-prod or tests. And so you can really customize this rule based on your fleet, your requirements, and the areas of your infrastructure where you really want Compute Optimizer to take action.
Right on. And we can flip that to like not equals as well. I'm thinking of the use case where somebody's like, if you don't tag it with a specific thing, it's fair game. And I know like people do that with SCPs and resource spin down now, but we can essentially do the same thing with cleanup now, which is awesome.
Yep. So you have the flexibility to say does not equal. You have the flexibility to add more values. And then you have the flexibility to add even more attributes. So if it's a certain volume type, a certain volume size, you can do so there as well.
Awesome.
Now, this criteria can get pretty lengthy if you've got a large estate. And we want to give you a way to preview all of the actions that match your criteria. So let me just show you that here, just based on the region. And if I click refresh matching actions, you'll get a preview of all of the volumes that match that region. And this gives you a sense of, okay, is this rule acting on the number of recommended actions that I intend to, and is this amount of savings in the ballpark that I'm expecting? And you can go and iterate on this criteria, and so that this rule is acting as you have intended it to.
Awesome. And you can edit these at any point, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
And so, Tom, maybe that's another area that you can talk more about is like, when a customer comes and edits a rule, how quickly are we updating this? Like, how quickly is that being reflected in the actions that we're going to take?
You're talking about the system, from the system.
Yeah, like if a customer comes in and turns off a rule, right?
Yeah, I would say that'll be instantly. That'll be immediately that you have a rule that you don't want it, then you have another rule to override it, or like on the organization level, you have one rule on the member, and then later you want, okay, I want, and not just for one account, I want for this whole organization thing. Then I set a organization rule across all the organization and take that as a priority. That will be instantly available.
Yeah. So before we go and act on any of these resources, we have those guardrails that Tan talked about, but we're also evaluating these rules and making sure that nothing has changed, and if something has changed, that is being reflected in how we're evaluating the resources when we're taking those actions, et cetera. And that happens every time we're about to take action on a resource.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good reminder. I think in the billing world or like the optimization world with cost data, a lot of things have a latency. Like Cost Explorer has a latency. It takes a little bit for us to deliver the CUR, depending on what point in the month we're in, right? But this is instant. When we change these rules and we tell the system to do something different, it will do that immediately.
Yep.
And we do have a question in the chat. Is right typing EBS from SSD to HDD instead of snapshot and delete a valid tactic? I don't think this is something that we support right yet. Is that correct? Or is this something that you guys have thought through?
Yeah, that's not supported in automation today. I don't believe we have a recommendation on that either. In general, you'll get a higher savings if you snapshot and delete the volume, and you can always restore that snapshot to a different resource type, as a different volume type as well.
Yeah, I think from like a broader optimization perspective, like there are use cases where that could make sense. That's a little bit out of the scope of this tool currently.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, and it looks like we got a schedule up here, or frequency window.
Yeah, so like no one wants to get paged on a Friday evening, right? And so we want you to tell us when you want these automations to take place. And so you can schedule this on a daily basis, on a weekly, or even a monthly basis. And we'll take action based on the time window that you've specified to make sure that we're only taking actions at that time, and you're not getting any wild automations happening at any other time. So this is yet another way to make sure that this automation is not running or doing something that you're not intending it to do.
Got it. I guess maybe a broader question about overall implementation strategy for these rules. So we have the organization rule, we have the kind of linked account level rule. What's your vision for how people mix and match these, or what do you see customers starting to do? I know the feature's pretty new, so I don't know if we have like a established idea of what customers are typically doing, but when we were kind of conceptualizing this, how did we frame that in our minds?
Yeah, so let me go back to the rule management page, because I think that will help folks visualize how you might manage all of these rules, or how
Sure.
different customers are doing that today. So let me go back to this page, and you'll see here that there are rules that are in the organization, there are rules in your specific account, and then you also see there are rules being evaluated before member accounts and after member accounts. And so our philosophy here is that we really want to make sure customers have precise control over all of the rules and know exactly when rules are being evaluated and what rules are being evaluated over other rules. And so you'll see that these are sorted by a rule order. And so if there are multiple rules that match a certain action to be taken, we will match it to the first rule in your priority order. And that spans both the organization rules that apply to your account, as well as the individual rules that you have created for your account as well. So there's a very strict order that you can change and reorder across these buckets in order to make sure you're getting the right actions taken. Now, in practice, what we see a lot of customers do is a lot of centralized teams will go in and create a single rule for all of their non-production accounts to start, right? And you only need one rule that operates across accounts, across regions, and across different resource types. So it's a really simple way to manage this automation across a broad part of your infrastructure. And so we see customers set up these rules from the management account and include all of those non-production member accounts as part of that rule to clean up, on a weekly basis, or on, the third week of every month. So that's what we see customers doing today, in the first few months of the launch. And that's something that we encourage, is that, you want to start, you want to start in a low risk environment. You want to clean up and get those savings quickly and get those quick wins before you move on to a more broader part of your infrastructure that touches, even more critical parts of your estate.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you're starting out, I can definitely see an experience where we automate the non-prods, maybe use the select and cherry pick for some of the production, or leave the kind of production or more live environment configurations up to each account to self-manage first, and then see what's working and kind of move on from there and see if there's the opportunity to roll that up to an organization level. But it depends on everybody's individual journey a little bit as well. So I see we've got the My Account rules. Is there a way for an organization management account to see what rules the individual linked accounts have in place, or how does that interact? What sort of visibility do you get?
Yeah, so from the management account, you can see all the rules that are created. In the console, we just show the rules that you've created across the organization, but you can grab that information from the API. In the console, this makes it a little bit easier to focus on the most important rules that you've created for your organization. If you are a member account, you will see all of the rules that you've created and all of the rules that the management account has created for you that apply to your account. You won't be able to adjust the order, so you can't say, oh, I'm going to move the management account's rules or disable the management account's rules, but you'll be able to see the order and the rules that apply to you. And so if you have questions, or if you want to opt out of that rule, that's a conversation that you can have with your administrators, and you can get that visibility from this page to see what are those rules that you need to bring up to your administrator. And we can talk more about this, which is, let's say you are a management account that has implemented rules for many of your member accounts, but one of your member accounts wants to opt out. So how does that work? Is there some control for us to give that member account their individual ownership of optimization while still retaining all of the capabilities of the management account for the organization? And you can go and actually manage that in your account preferences. And so in the automation account preferences, you'll see a list of all of the member accounts that have enabled this feature, and you can add more, right? As Ton mentioned, you have to opt in to this new service for us to take action on your behalf. And when you do so, you can see all of the accounts that are active, that have enabled automation, and you can decide which of these member accounts do you want to manage from an organization perspective, or you want to restrict so that the management account can't create any rules to target these member accounts. And if there are any rules that were targeted by these organization rules, turning this off will automatically block any of those organization rules from acting on your account. So part of those checks that Ton mentioned earlier, right? We're checking your opt-in status, we're checking your organization membership, we're checking whether or not you've allowed the organization to act on your behalf. Those are all part of the checks every time we go and implement one of these actions. And you can control that from this account management page.
Okay, so if I'm turning this on for the first time today, I need to essentially come in here and do some configuration. But what sort of opt-in do I have to do from looks like we may have lost Jimmy. Oh, he's back. What sort of opt-in do I have to do from a linked account perspective in order to make this work? If I'm like a FinOps admin and I'm telling my folks to like, hey, we're going to start opting into this or start these automated actions.
Yeah. So as part of the onboarding, and let me show that.
How much of that did you hear, if any?
Oh, I heard everything. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me just disable this and show everybody, like, if you want to opt in, what does that look like, right? So you'll come to this landing page in Compute Optimizer. You'll click Enable Automation. We talk a little bit about the service linked role permission that's required to take action on your behalf, and we can dive into that a little bit more. Tom can talk about how we decided that versus pass roles. You'll notice there's no messing around with pass roles across your organization, and that's something that we have worked really hard to simplify for our customers. And so once you have opted into this service linked role and you've enabled automation, as part of the onboarding, you can actually add all of those member accounts that you want to also have this ability to automate. And so you can go in and add all of these accounts as part of the onboarding. Now, if you want to configure this later, you can go back to the account management page and do that there. But you'll have the opportunity to do that as part of the onboarding process.
Awesome. And with that service link rule, what's the difference between that and IAM? Why did we decide to go that direction?
Yeah, so when you have multiple accounts and you want to take action across your entire organization, you'll need to traditionally have to manage IAM roles for each of these accounts. You'll need an IAM role in your management account to assume those roles in each of those accounts. You need to keep those permissions updated. So let's say we add more recommended actions. You'll need to add a new permission every time we support a new optimization. And so there's a lot of overhead for customers there in order to manage and control exactly what permissions are necessary for Compute Optimizer to assume in order to take action on your behalf. With a service-linked role, this is a permission that only Compute Optimizer can assume. And we have all of the permissions that are necessary in order to snapshot and delete your unattached EBS volume. We have permissions to modify the EBS volume itself to change the volume type. And we have, and these permissions allow us to take action on your behalf across your organization. And so you can, as long as those accounts are opted in, we will be able to create a service-linked role in those accounts and have the necessary permissions in order to go and take action in each of those member accounts that you have opted in and that you allow Compute Optimizer to act on.
Awesome. Okay, so that opt-in is really important to make sure that actions can be taken. And if we're not opting in, there's no way in any universe that we could take an action on an account by accident, right?
That's right. Tan, is there anything else that you
Awesome.
want to add on the opt-in?
I think that's pretty much about the service link role is the main part, which we decided to, as Jimmy mentioned, to use a different service link role from the AWS Compute Optimizer. We created a dedicated service link role, AWS service role for Compute Optimizer automation, just for automation services. And this is mainly targeting by performing the mutation actions tasks, such as creating, modifying, and deleting resources through the other AWS services. Yep.
Awesome. So this is something that we can use essentially in the future as we build out this automation as well.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool. Future proof. Love it. So with the setup piece, I see we're back to kind of our recommended actions here. If I've gone through the setup and kind of looked at what I've got and configured some automation rules, what do you see customers do next, Jimmy? Or what's some of the feedback that you've got on essentially how this is working in practice?
Yeah, so what we love to hear from customers is, what else do you need to really streamline your optimization process? We want to make it easy for you to optimize across your organization. We want it to make it easy for you to optimize across different resource types. So we want to hear, what other optimizations do you want? What kind of reporting needs do you need to make sure that you're quantifying the value of these optimizations? And so we want to hear about your entire optimization journey and how we can reduce that friction at every step of the process while making it extremely safe and trustworthy in order to automate and take these actions on a continuous basis so that you don't have to think about it going forward, so that you have a process that can be scaled up, that can be depended on, and that can be run over a long period of time to help you achieve those savings.
Awesome. Yeah, we had somebody ask why not CPU in the chat earlier. I know EC2 is kind of a harder nut to crack than some of the EBS pieces, but definitely love to hear that feedback and love to hear what's hard for people, because we're always trying to make it easier. As Jimmy said at the start, like, this is the beginning. This is the first automated action rule set that we've launched. This is something that we want to continue iterating on. So if you've got ideas, drop them in the chat. Let us know. Let your AWS representative know. Email costoptimization@amazon.com. That's how you can get in touch with us through the show. And we're absolutely more than happy to pass that feedback on to exactly where it needs to go and make sure that your voice is heard. But as always, like, we're looking for feedback from y'all to figure out what's going to be helpful. I guess quick question on the reporting that we have here. Do we have like a way to download this or any export functionality here within this dashboard too?
Not at the moment, but you can always get the data through the API, and so you can get all of these recommended events, the automation events, as well as the summary view of these dashboards.
Awesome. Sorry, my audio just cut out for a moment. As we're going through this, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here. So is there anything else that you guys want to showcase or anything else you want the people to know about Compute Optimizer and the new automated actions?
No, again, thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate the opportunity, Savannah, to be on your show and share this with our customers. And again, we would love to hear your feedback on how this works for you, and what are those other features and opportunities you'd like us to help you tackle next.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. And thanks for walking us through the demo. We really appreciate you taking the time. Awesome. All right. Any last questions in the chat? I think we are good to go. Take care and see you next week.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.